Hey everybody, it's Marty, the JavaScript party, and my buddy Rhett, and our camera is being a weirdo again. Freeze frame. Anyways, yeah, I'm going to turn that off, deactivate my webcam because it's being a weirdo. Um, that is so wild. I would love to understand what's going on, but it is off. What's really strange is my camera is still on, even though it's deactivated. Maybe if I turn that off. What if I activate that? I don't know. Okay. See, did that fix it? Nope. Anyway, so there's that. That's a bit annoying. So I think I've been thinking a lot about what's going on with, how I want to do this drawing. So basically, what I have right now is this visualization layout, and it basically runs alongside with a request animation frame. Guess I forgot to do my intro. It's Marty the JavaScript party. I'm a buddy Rhett. It is 8:21, so I'm running late because I had my paralegal course last night about bankruptcy. I learned a lot in that course. It was a fantastic course. It was from 7 to 10 p.m. and I normally go to bed between 9 and 10. So I ended up going to bed close to 11 o'clock. I normally wake up around 4:30 or 5 in the morning, and this morning I slept straight. Our alarm goes off at 6. I was sound asleep when the alarm went off at 6. So I think that is pretty healthy sleep. Yeah, I got to be happy with that sleep situation where like something could jar my existing process, um, and then I just adapt and I just still sleep. So that's good. I think I actually slept more than I normally do last night, but I feel pretty good right now. But it is 8:22. It is beautiful outside. I think it's supposed to hit like 68 degrees Fahrenheit today. So it's going to be an absolutely gorgeous day today. I can't wait till I get done with work at 5 p.m. Then I can go outside and take the dogs to go play in the water for a little bit, and then we'll go run. Then I'll probably do some wind sprints or something, and a little bit of light exercise. Uh, it's about time to mow the grass, so I'll do a little bit of grass mowing and just some outside chores and stuff like that. So everything's going good. But what's always on my mind is right now is this visualization update. And basically, the thing I'm trying to achieve is I want this visualization layout to run, and whenever it runs, I just want it to be able to read. And if there's something to do, it does it. But only if there's something to do. And normally that kind of thing is, or normally, until about 8, 10 years ago, the way you would kind of do that is you'd kind of have like a last updated date time or something like that, and you would just check to see if the time is different, if the time was different. But that kind of is hard to maintain because what happens is you end up with a like having to add a lot of code around whether to update that time or not. Um, sometimes a user may do something that may be a change or may not be a change, and then it spurs a change, and then that change there wasn't actually a change. So knowing whether to update, but since then, what has happened is we started like kind of creating objects and then doing a comparison, like a hash, and then just checking to see if the hash has changed. And if the hash is different, like so I could have a hash that basically happens whenever I make a change in this visualization layout, and then that hash would match the hash of whenever something was changed, and then um, if the hash is different, then it would do an update. But if the hash is the same, it would it wouldn't do an update. So it would only update things when something actually changed, because it only, so if someone did something that didn't actually change it but sort of looked like it might have changed it, I don't have to do a bunch of deep analysis. I can just say do that and run the hash. Okay, this thing, all it does is check to see what the last hash it did and updated and all that. And I don't know if that makes sense. It probably doesn't, but that's what I'm working on, and so that's what we're working to. And hopefully, once it's actually working, we'll be done. But the things that I do want to cause my to kick off to cause this visualization to actually do work. So it's going to run either way, but whether it does work or not will depend on the hash. Will be either the width or the height of the entire viewport changes, or something, either the number or something within. No, either the number of these or the size and width of these is changed. I don't care about something within. If they could change stuff within, doesn't care to the layout. The layout won't care. Like, let's say we turn this into a sphere. The layout doesn't care. Only if the thing that's holding it, the container that's holding it, is affected, will it care. So that's what I'm working on. I don't know if that made sense. If it made sense, then I guess mission accomplished. If it didn't make sense, well, I had to practice at trying to say the words and make it make sense. And maybe the next time I try to say the words and make it make sense, it'll make better sense. You have to practice that, unfortunately. But so I have this animation service, and this is the thing that just deals with actually doing updates. And then I have a new service that I created called Layout Service, and all it has is a constructor and that's it. But so I do, just as I just said, I do want to store what the current width is, right? So I'm going to say viewport and I'm going to set that to 0. So basically, from 30,000 feet, what I want is if the viewport width is different than the width the last time it made this calculation, then I want it to redraw. But if the viewport width is the same as the last time and everything else is the same, then I don't want it to redraw. So then I'm going to say viewport height. Is equal to 0. So now let's say the viewport height is different. Well, I probably want it to redraw as well. Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't even matter. But I actually, I'm going to have it because I think it will. I don't know. I don't know if it matters. I don't know if all I care is, like if the height changes, it doesn't matter because it's just going to do that. But the point is I don't want to check both of those. I only want to check one thing to determine. So I'm just going to say layout cache, layout hash. Value. And this is basically going to be a blank screen, but it will eventually do a SHA type of hash on viewport height and viewport width. And if that value comes out, so like the first time the hash gets calculated, it'll be 0, like character 0, and then the hash. But now let's say the width goes to 600 by 800, then the hash will change. But that's my layout hash, and then rendered layout hash. And so this is going to be whenever the renderer makes a change, it's going to take the hash that it just changed, and it's just going to save it. So if nothing has changed, those two values will be the same. But if something changes, then those two values will be different. And so then it'll know, oh, okay, I need to do an update. And what's really nice about this is, like, let's say, like, there's some things that just may result in massive amounts of changes, like let's say someone's dragging something around, or like if you're doing this, like that is, I probably literally just fired off as we're speaking 3,000 events, right? So it can be making these changes. It can make 100 of these hash changes, but it's only going to update the screen. Like it might do it. It might make. I think I've seen it be like 800 changes per second when you do that on some computers, and then, but this only updates. The screen will only update 60 times a second. So like this could be changing all at once, but this is going to be throttled to 60 times a second, period. Um, so that's really good. And then it'll always get the last one. So that is the plan, anyways. And then the other thing is it's going to have a list of these things, visualization IDs. And here's the thing: is I don't need I won't need so I won't need the I won't need to pass that in. It'll be able to get that from here, right? So I could just be like, and I don't even think we probably won't, and then just return. And then over here, I could just say, so now this is a really good, yeah, yeah, I could just say, I can get rid of, this is a good time to like think, oh man, do I really want to do that? Um, because it will be harder to unit test this because it doesn't have its own visualization IDs. Um, so, um, so do I want to add complexity to making this harder by letting this? And so, yeah, so I was going to do that, but then I thought, oh man, that's going to make it harder for me to. I still want this function, but that's going to make it harder for me to unit test, and that is sort of the whole point to unit tests, is it makes you think, oh, this is going to be harder to unit test. When then it's like, okay, yeah, this is going to be a much less pure function. Now, honestly, yeah, okay, so that's good. So basically, I would only want to actually do any of this stuff though um, if the hash is different, right? So let's go ahead and add a string, and that's going to be what did I call that over there? Layout hash and rendered layout hash. So basically these two strings are going to get passed in too. And I honestly would not have done it this way if it wasn't for the fact that I have to do unit tests. And I'm like, oh man, this is just going to be so much easier to unit test if I pass in these things. Alt left and rendered layout hash. I love you too, Rat. I love you too. String. All right, so now we got our rendered layout hash, and so basically the only way I want to do anything is if those are different, right? So Right. So that's the only time I ever want to run this thing is if I don't want to do any updating unless those two are different. Now this may not end up being the best place to do this. I do think this is the best place to do this. Um, I feel like it would be a little bit more pleasant to like just get this information from the service, but and maybe that's how this will end up. But right now, this is how I'm going to set this up. So basically, this thing's going to get the visualization IDs, the layout hash, and the rendered. And it may actually just get the visualizations instead of the IDs. Probably, um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, probably the visualizations. It'll probably actually get the visualizations. Um, so, so basic, because it doesn't really need, well, it does need to know the width and the height. So, um, and I don't really want to. All right, so yeah, I think I think we're just gonna just run this, and it's just gonna get all its information from the service. I don't. Well, I think it would be easier to unit test this without having to inject the service. I don't see any way around it because it's as these things grow, it's going to be very difficult to maintain that. I think. All right, so we want to get our layout service and inject it. So this is kind of like I'm staying with this thing. See, this is animation service. So I kind of wanted to have like that rule, like, okay, I'm going to, I am going to always, if there's not a ThreeJS in front of, if there's not an ST, then I'm going to assume it's ThreeJS, but now that's, so here's another one that's not a ThreeJS. So now I'm getting a copy of my layout service. It's not going to be a big deal to set up a layout service. Let's go ahead and insert it, kind of make sure it makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, set up a layout service before I run this thing. Um, but, okay, so if this layout is different from and then here's another kind of thing that you have to think about is like, do we want it accessing these values directly, or do we want it to go through getters and setters? And most people would like just knee jerk straight to getters and setters. I'm not going to at this point, and the biggest reason I'm not going to is because one of the most important reasons of doing this is to sort of learn why we do things. And I want to see what problem I end up running into because I didn't do this. Because if I was working at a professional, if this was a professional job, I was doing this as professional code, I would set getters and setters, no question about it. But why do we do that? I don't know, and I want to learn that lesson. And sometimes I want to learn a lesson the hard way. But if I'm going to learn the lesson the hard way, I want to do it on my own clock, not on the company's clock. So why? Why do I need this? Why do I need to have a getter for the hash values and a setter? And then, so when we're at the end of this thing, we want to say this dot layout service dot rendered hash value equals this dot layout service. And then there's some things that you only do because so now basically it'll reset it. So now we know. And so I think what we have done is we have sort of added some armor between, like we've protected the rendering system because it will not update. It will not attempt to update anything more than 60 times a second. So I can write stuff to the layout service all I want. I can write to it 1,000 times a second, but that will not transfer to the renderer updating more than 60 times a second. If I update this 1,000 times a second, I will get the 60 of them, and I'll update 60 of them. So I've disconnected, I've decoupled the writing of data to updating, to holding the values from the reading of it, because there's no, from the rendering of it, because rendering all this stuff is super expensive compared to just writing data to values. So that is that. So now next is writing some sort of code that is going to update let's see, what's this problem? App component on line 31. Yep. So I can hold the control button down and click on this. Maybe not that. Click on that, and it'll take me to where my problemo is. And basically it's saying you weren't supposed to send this thing anything. Now this would be the place that we would write it to the renderer. I mean to the layout service, right? So, and it doesn't even matter because they do have a they both have a link, a pointer to the same thing. So I can just say this dot render layout. Oh, I don't have the layout service. Need to inject our layout service. We should get our blue one. Now we have so many imports up here, we really should kind of, try to divide them up into sort of a reasonable way. So this is our sort of our special stuff that's just for us. And then those are the ST things. And then these are the three things. And so three libraries. ST-libs. I don't know what else to name it, or to classify it as. But basically, so now we have our layout service, and so we can say in the constructor, we can just, I don't think we can do it here. Let's just try it here. Or dot, yeah, see, it won't let me do it. layout service dot visualization IDs is equal to is that right? Okay, let me go into ST visualization. Wrong one. Layout service. Visualization IDs. And then in our so we don't even have visualization IDs. We have these renderer IDs. This renderer. Oh, this renderer IDs. This renderer IDs push. Oh yeah, there it is, render IDs. But I was supposed to have visualization IDs. Okay, I'm going. What are these? These are visualization IDs. What do I have in the animation service? I have visualization IDs. But I do not have actual visualization IDs yet. I don't have the concept of visual. I have renderer IDs, but not visualization IDs. And a visualization is going to have like a width, height, blah, 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 all this stuff. And it's going to have the reference to the children, which I haven't built out. So it's going to have a reference to all of these visualization items. So we're going to want to create a visualization for every renderer ID and push it onto the layout service. And these are our visualizations right now. Basically, right now what we're doing is we have this and we're saying, hey, go through all the render IDs, because there's each one of these guys has its own little renderer, but so sort of at the same level is a visualization that is tied to a renderer. But it doesn't really need to know anything about the renderer, but it is tied to it. So in our, let's go in, obviously I can't go all day. It's already 8:48, so I'm almost out of time. I have to start work in 12 minutes. But in our layout service, we have these. Okay, so we're not using that yet. We aren't implementing our visualization. Visualizations over here. So which is how did I do that in our interfaces? Is this our interface? Yeah. So I call it an ST visualization. So now that's kind of a bummer. I'm kind of mixing naming schemes. So these are our visualizations. And then I'm hoping for the blue. So these are our visualizations. So we want a visualization should have one of these. It should have a renderer ID on it though. So let's go back to our visualizations. Go to implementations. Or not, go to definition. Right, because every visualization only has one renderer. Oh, I do have a render ID on there. Okay, so once we have our renderer ID, we can create a visualization and we can update the data on it. And then, so basically, and I kind of had already started it over here. So basically, we're going to want to loop over every renderer ID and create a visualization, a doppelganger visualization. So renderer ID push get base renderer. So I don't really want to do it that way. It would be kind of nice if during get base renderer, render service, get base renderer, if it actually created the whole visualization. But because then that sort of couples them, it deeply couples the renderer to a visualization. But I think there's probably there may be some issues with that. I don't think that render service is the thing that we can't, that we don't, I don't know how to get to load, right? Yeah. So this causes, so yeah. So unfortunately, I can't really do it as part of this. But it would be kind of nice if instead of this returning, yeah, let's not do that. So it would be kind of nice if if when we created a base renderer, wrong one, when we created a base renderer, if we returned a visualization, but that really isn't realistic. I guess it makes sense. Okay, let's go back into app. So this is what causes a render. This render ID. So anytime anything gets written to a render ID, once a render ID gets once a render ID gets created, it automatically create and gets pushed to the renderer. Then it automatically creates a visualization on the screen. So that's what should also kick off. So basically, this push needs to change into a function. And as part of that function, a kind of a side effect of that function would be that the whole rendering piece is created. And that's only because the rendering piece can't really be created until this exists. And so we have to kind of be able to visualize what's happening because we don't want to do that until the actual component exists. And the component, it's like a chicken and egg thing. Like the component exists because a renderer ID is created, which then updates the UI with the renderer. And once that UI is updated with the renderer, then we want to create the whole object that's going to define where this lays out and its sizes and all that stuff. We can't really do any of that until it exists, and that is definitely, this is all in the constructor, right? Yeah, so we actually want to do this so it doesn't even exist yet. So like our child objects don't exist. So we can't really do anything with them until they exist. So I think what we have to have is like a uh, a loop, one of these life cycle hooks that um, we need to create a life cycle hook. Can I do this? Create viz objects. And then in there we can start putting together all these little pieces. I mean, we can start, you know, creating meta data around each one of the for each one of these, so then we can know where to lay them out and all that. Um, and basically, yeah, we need to see, okay, whenever there's a change, we need to see if there was some sort of change that affects the number of these and which ones of these should exist inside. So, anyways, that's a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on there. I've built these sorts of things before, never really thoroughly thought through them, and it is way more complicated. I had definitely abstracted a lot of that stuff in my brain away, and now that I'm trying to tease it out, it is weird. It is 8:56. I got 4 minutes to be on work. Everybody, happy coding. Bye.